Star Wars only. I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
Hello there, Star Wars fans. I'm Star Wars Only. We're doing our next Let's Talk Star Wars podcast, number 13, where I will be answering your questions about Star Wars that you ask on my community tab on YouTube. And we're going to be talking about Star Wars Celebration Chicago 2019, which I attended a few months ago. I'm going to tell you some stories about that, some good times that we had. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's raining and thundering over here, so if you hear that, just know that I'm okay and nothing bad's happening. Just enjoy the sound of the rain and the sound of my voice as we talk about some Star Wars, because you don't have to be lonely at StarWarsOnly.com. I don't have a website yet, but one day. So the first question comes from Mr. Clickbait Reborn. He asks, would you want to see a Star Wars Cyberpunk 2077 kind of game, but set in Coruscant right after Order 66? I think that'd be awesome. It does sound like a very intriguing game, and it's almost like a movie in a way. If you see the trailer that they had for the Cyberpunk game, they had Keanu Reeves in it. By the way, that was a great marketing strategy. The reveal with him and him coming out on stage at E3, that was awesome. I watched that live, and I really did enjoy that. I thought that was a really good thing to see live, and I can't imagine actually being there. The rest of the conferences weren't that great, but anyways, I really did like the trailer for Cyberpunk because it looked like a movie/video game. The graphics were great. The story was engaging. That's one thing I think a lot of video games are missing now for me, or guys like me. I grew up playing mainly story video games. You know, when I had the PS2, I couldn't play online with all my friends or anything like that. I couldn't do that until I got an Xbox 360 and everything. So it was hard to play those online games and multiplayer games if you just had story. And I still like story games. I feel like a lot of people don't like story games anymore, but those are still relevant for me. And so seeing a game like Cyberpunk that is story-driven and it looks like a movie, it's something like a world that I wouldn't mind going to. It feels real. That's the biggest part of it. It's immersive. It feels real. It has a certain realism to it of the world and the characters and the way they react and act. I like that. And I think if Star Wars did that into a video game, it'd be a huge financial success because that's something everyone would look for in a Star Wars game. That everyone who's seen Star Wars, like the movies, even the casual audiences, I think would really be captured by something immersive like that. And maybe after Jedi Fallen Order, EA will take note and do that. It depends on how well Jedi Fallen Order does, though. If the sales aren't as good as they need to be, they may not do an open world or story-driven Star Wars game. I mean, they canceled the Visceral one, so with EA in charge, you may not get that Cyberpunk-style Star Wars game. But I don't know. I've never played a Cyberpunk game, so if you have, tell me below if they're good or not, and I may start playing them. I got that Xbox Game Pass. I don't pick sides, though. I have an Xbox and a PS4, so don't think I'm picking sides on the console war. But the next question comes from Peter Laubry. He asks, which space battle is the best? The Battle of Coruscant, Scarif, or Endor? Coruscant was great at Revenge of the Sith. The opening for it was really good. It was a beautiful opening shot, and it really showed you how far digital technology was coming when it came to movies and special effects and everything. But it was short. I mean, it was a really short scene, and it was a short sequence that didn't have a lot of story value, in my opinion. I mean, it really just showed the best part of Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship, and that's them being friends for once. So it's like the only time up until that point in the trilogy that they've been friends, it seems. And I like that. But besides that, in terms of epicness, in terms of battle, Scarif would beat Coruscant. And I think Endor beats both of them in terms of scale. You know, you have the Star Destroyers versus the Rebel fleet with Admiral Akbar and his calamari ships and whatnot. And I really think that was a good battle. Seeing Lando in the Millennium Falcon, he goes in, he takes out the second Death Star, and there was a lot of strategy going on behind that. Scarif was kind of a, one quick little thing. You know, we go in, we attack, and it's kind of like a Hail Mary. I mean, they all really were Hail Marys in a way. Well, not Coruscant, but they were trying to rescue the Emperor. I think, in the end, Endor is probably the best battle for space because of the sheer size and some of the really spectacular moments that you have where the Death Star is active and it destroys one of the ships, and then you also have one of the Star Destroyers that gets destroyed, and I think it falls down into like a Super Star Destroyer or something like that. One of the big ones. I think it's Vader's one, I believe. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. I'm sorry, but I think that was a really beautiful scene and really cool. And then you also have that part where the guy, I think is he in the A-Wing where he crashes into into the ship as well. He crashed into another Star Destroyer. He was either in an A-Wing or a Y-Wing, but that was also a really cool moment. Scarif had a lot of great moments as well, but that's also because that's what the entire third act was about, in my opinion. It wasn't really meant on the story of Scarif. It's just the epicness and that last-minute hurrah, in a way. It was really cool. I really enjoyed seeing the Battle of Scarif. And that would probably be my second pick, but number one is Endor for me. So yeah, definitely in space battles. I hope Episode 9 can improve in a way, because I think Episode 8 didn't really do too much. Did Episode 7 even have a space battle? I don't think it did. I can't remember. Oh, they had it on Starkiller Base. And Episode 8 had one at the beginning, but it was also pretty chaotic. So, I don't know. We'll see in Episode 9 what can happen, but the Resistance doesn't have like a big fleet either, so I can't imagine them having a big space battle in that one. Winston Shee asks, what story should be adapted for the 4th Star Wars trilogy? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of... With the new canon that you have now, you have a lot of possibilities. And the new roles that they're bringing in, Darth Momin and bringing back a Sith Lord through an artifact, that has implications. One of the biggest changes to how how the Force can basically work is that world between worlds thing that you saw in Rebels. And that really opened a box in a way, kind of like Pandora's box, where it was like, wow, your possibilities are really limitless now. You can take it to a whole nother level that I'm personally not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of the time travel stuff. I think that really confuses stuff beyond... I think it just makes things overcomplicated, and that's when you can start nitpicking stuff, and I just don't like that. But I didn't mind the way it was executed. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. If it's like a one-and-done thing, not a lot of people even know about it or can access it. It's one of those rare parts of the Force that you can't understand. I mean, it makes sense that the Force can go through time and space. It is the Force. It is something different. But it makes things really complicated, so you want to avoid exploring that in the new trilogies, because you're going to confuse a lot of people. But there's so many stories that you can build off of. They could definitely go... I think one thing they should do for a Star Wars trilogy, either Rian Johnson or the David Benioff guys, is show the Jedi doing good and doing something that they were meant to do. Be the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy. I didn't see that in the prequels. I'm definitely not seeing that in the sequels. And we were hinted at it in the original trilogy. But I don't think we saw that in the prequels. And now it seems to be that Disney has built the new canon to change the story of Star Wars, to look at the prequels and the Jedi in those movies as failures. Mace Windu and Yoda and them couldn't see that Sidious was a dark side user, and their lack of foresight or whatever, their training of Anakin, and the failures of Obi-Wan, all that leads to this bad perception of the Jedi that makes the Jedi seem bad in the prequels, and I don't like that. So I would rather the new trilogies come out, show the Jedi doing good, actually going and saving people from the Sith or some evil organization, something good like that, actually being Jedi. It doesn't always have to be this matter of the end of the world and the fate of the galaxy rest on this one mission. Or even in the original trilogy, or the prequel trilogy, my bad, where Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, this was George's original plan with it and how he kind of executed it, where they just happened to be going on this mission undercover by Chancellor Valorum, and they unravel this big conspiracy with the Sith and everything, and all this secret organization shit going on behind the scenes with the Sith Lord and the Separatists. That Guardians of the Peace meeting kind of thing that they had going on ended up being a fate of the galaxy, and it actually did change the fate of the galaxy and is the entire story of Star Wars. And that's a good start. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's actually not the worst thing in the world. It seems like a normal Jedi mission, and it unravels into this big thing. It unravels into the Star Wars saga and the Skywalker family saga. I like that. I do think it was executed a little poorly, but I like the concept of it and the story behind it. But so far, we haven't had a Star Wars story where we see the Jedi go do what Jedi are supposed to do. You see it a lot in the Clone Wars, don't get me wrong, but they're at war. It's a big war thing. It's almost, I wouldn't want to say circumstantial, but it's almost like they were forced into it by the way we, the audience, look at the Jedi. The Jedi are supposed to be good, so in the war, they're going to be protecting the villages and the planets that can't be protected and everything. You see a lot of that. I want to see the Jedi just go on a mission. You know, a Jedi and his Padawan, Jedi Master and his Padawan, go on a mission to a planet, and they don't solve a dispute, but they defend, you know, a certain country from another country or something. I don't know, just something different, something like that, where the Jedi are actually doing what Jedi are supposed to do. That's what I would like to see adapted into a story for another trilogy. And maybe each film in the trilogy covers a different Padawan and their master, and it all connects in one way or another. You know, like in a way, it is connected, all three in the same story. And you know, maybe in the end there was like some boss that was kind of controlling the three different planets that these three different masters went to, or three different adventures that they all went on. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but there could be a way to connect it all, but tell different stories and different characters and different planets. I wouldn't mind something like that for a trilogy. I think it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. This next question comes from DrewTube. He asks, do you think that JJ planned to bring Palpatine back the whole time? He did have drafts for 8 and 9. How much of Episode 9 do you think will be what JJ originally intended from his drafts, and how much do you think will be completely new after The Last Jedi? I've done a decent amount of research on this stuff about the writing and the planning and everything, and I had to do it for my documentary of the fans versus Disney. And in that research, you know, yeah, JJ did come out and say that he wrote drafts for Episode 8 and 9, but recently in these interviews over the past year, yeah, it's been about a year or two, because I mean, he started working on Episode 9 in late 2017, yeah, fall 2017. When it came for the script, he had the script finished about a year ago, in 2018 for sure. I knew that. And he was happy because it was before they even started filming, and that was a big thing for him. So he definitely had it planned ahead of time. And Kathleen Kennedy has hinted at that this was the plan from the start. So I definitely think that Palpatine was originally supposed to come back the entire time. I do think that was the goal from the beginning, from the sequel trilogy. It's not far out of left field in my opinion. But I also know that Ryan's creative freedom in Episode 8 hindered what JJ wanted the story to be in Episode 9 and Episode 8 as well. It was a very confusing thing. When they say they planned the sequel trilogy out, they didn't plan it as well as they think they did, or as well as they say they did. From what I've seen, it does look like Lucasfilm was rushed by Disney to put these films out as fast as possible. Rian Johnson rewrote the script for Episode 8, and that's why it was delayed 8 months, because he had to rewrite the script. And the reason he rewrote the script is because of the positive reaction that Episode 7 had with the new characters. A lot of people like the new characters in the new cast. And Episode 8 was, believe it or not, originally supposed to be more focused on the original trilogy cast, which is surprising because I think it was already focused enough on Luke itself, even though I didn't like his character arc. I think it would dive a little deeper on Carrie as well, Carrie Fisher's character, Leia. So that was really interesting to wonder what the original Episode 8 was going to be about. And it's also weird to think that, you know, this is a new trilogy, and Rian Johnson's Episode 8 was going to be about the old trilogy characters. It's so weird how the story has been changed. And so with the change that Rian Johnson did in Episode 8, with Rey's background, with Snoke, I know for sure JJ had to change what he was doing for Episode 9. And he even said in the Vanity Fair article, I believe it was the Vanity Fair article, where he said that he kind of had to go off his gut feelings, and he had to say kind of fuck it in a way, just, you know, do it. And that's due to what Rian Johnson did in The Last Jedi. And he's not saying that to be negative and like, oh, how dare he do that. It was just kind of like, well, he put me into this position where it was like, well, shit, now it's like, well, I got to go off my gut feeling. I can't go off the drafts that I had for. We didn't go for this plan. But the drafts that JJ had for Episodes 8 and 9 weren't even received by Rian Johnson. That's what's so confusing about this, is that Rian said when they approached him for Episode 8, they hadn't even finished Episode 7. Or, I think they hadn't finished Episode 7 or it wasn't out yet, something like that. But he said there were no plans after Episode 7 when they approached him, that's for sure. I know that much. So it's really confusing on where the planning really was. Was Palpatine originally supposed to come back? I do think that was the plan. I just think the execution of it and how they were going to get to the point of Palpatine coming back was not really talked about much and got lost in translation somewhere, because it does seem like something went foul, and I don't know what. I really think that they were just all rushed. I think every single sequel trilogy, I think every single movie in the sequels has been rushed, and I know they've been rushed. Like, just looking at the production problems that they've had, they've all been a little bit rushed, and that's just because that's what Disney wanted. And Lucasfilm, they have creative freedom with the story, but Lucasfilm doesn't have much freedom in terms of the release dates. And now they seem to have more freedom with it. It does seem like Disney's backing off a little bit, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We got a long time ahead. Episode 9, we'll have Palpatine back, and I do think it was planned from the beginning, but I think the execution of it's going to be really interesting to see now. Emperor Palpamemes asks, there's been a lot of people hyping up the want for Keanu Reeves to play Darth Revan in an Old Republic movie. How would you feel if that ended up being the case? No. That goes. It's funny because people who want that are also the people who are claiming to be the biggest George Lucas fans. Like, they're like, oh, I love George Lucas, and he never should have sold and all that stuff. They're the ones who really like George Lucas, but they never listen to what he says. George has always advised against having big stars like Keanu Reeves in a Star Wars movie because it takes away from the story. He's not going to be Revan in that movie. He's going to be Keanu Reeves. He's already a big deal from The Matrix, and now he's even a bigger deal from John Wick. But if you bring him in as Revan, you're not going to look at him as Revan. You're going to say, oh, that's John Wick. Oh, that's, Neo. That's Keanu Reeves. That's not Darth Revan. And for Star Wars fans, it would be a really cool thing, because it's like, hey, that's Darth Revan played by Keanu Reeves. Yes, but that just takes away from the story. That's why they go for these actors that aren't really well known. Not a lot of people knew who John Boyega was, or Daisy Ridley. Oscar Isaac was a little more well known, for sure, but they try to keep the original cast, or the main leads for every trilogy, relatively unknown. For the leading cast in the prequels even, George wanted to get a lesser known actors. Ewan McGregor was popular, but he was a Scottish guy that a lot of American people didn't really know unless you were a big film buff. So, yeah, I don't think bringing in Keanu Reeves would be a wise decision. I think it would ruin and diminish the story a little bit. And he's a phenomenal actor, don't get me wrong. He's a really great actor, and I'd love to have him in the Star Wars franchise. But I think if you really want to honor the vision of Star Wars and the story of Star Wars, which is what it's about, you let the A-list celebrities have cameos instead of actually stealing the limelight from the story. So, yeah, I personally wouldn't want it. This next question comes from Devin. He asks, how many Mandalorians were there at Celebration 2019? There was a lot. A lot of people, some guy, not a lot of people, one guy commented on my footage of all of it, my compilation of all the cosplayers. He said, why do you put so many Mandalorians in there? Like, there's too many Mandalorians. It's like, dude, it's Star Wars Celebration, and it's Star Wars fans. What do you expect? Boba Fett was like the biggest deal forever, and it's one of the most cool designs you can steal from and create in unique ways and spin it to your own version. I mean, there's a lot of really unique designs that they have for Mandalorian armor, and they've always looked really good. Even the new Mandalorian show, The Mandalorian, that looks pretty good too, the armor for that. So there's a lot of people at Star Wars Celebration that do the 501st stuff, and they dress up as Mandalorians. There was a bunch of them, and I think they all get together. When they were actually doing the panel for the show, The Mandalorian, they put all the fans that have Mandalorian armor, they put them all in like one big section where it was kind of like the main middle section, and whenever something cool happened, they'd take off their helmets and they'd like pump it in the air and everything. And then there was a good bunch of them. I'd say about 100 to 150 of them. So that was pretty crazy to see. A lot of Mandalorians, a lot of good cosplayers at Celebration 2019. It was Chicago too, so it wasn't like too hot for them. It was cold. It was weird in Chicago too, because like one day it was hot, the next day it was snowing, then the day was back to hot, and like the day next it was like raining. It was all over the place. It was really weird. I thought that was just a Texas thing, but nope, it's everywhere. Without the snow, we don't have snow in Texas. But his question after that is, how are droidekas able to shoot through their shield, but no one else can shoot at them? I don't know. That's a question I am not qualified to answer, if I'm being honest. This next question is, what is your favorite Clone Wars arc? Clone Wars has a lot of good arcs. My favorites have to be the Mortis arc and the Kamino arc with the clone troopers. I think the Kamino arc with Fives and Heavy and 99 and all them really shows what the Clone Wars has to offer as a show and what it does better than the prequels. It expands on the story of the clones. The biggest problem that not the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems I had with the prequels growing up and even now is that I don't care about the armies. You know, the Separatists are droids, sure, whatever, I'm not supposed to care about them. But the clones, you know, they're clones, but they're men, you know? He's like, we lost men out there, not clones, men. I don't care about them, though. I don't have any human connection to them. There's no humanity to them, in a way. They act like cannon fodder to the Republic. They're just mass-produced to go out there and fight a war, just like the droids. So I don't connect to them anyway. But in the Clone Wars show, it actually shows the humanity behind them. It shows what they struggle to go through, and the Kamino arc really shows that even when they're getting attacked on their home planet, even if they're clones, they're like, hey, this is our home. We're not going to let them take our planet and our brothers. I mean, they even call them their fellow clones brothers. And I like that. That really expands on the clones' story and gives them character that I care about when I see them die now. So now they're not just cannon fodder in the prequel movies. Now they're actually characters that I know and like and enjoy seeing on screen. I think the Clone Wars does that best with the Kamino arc. And I think that really does show what the Clone Wars is about. So that would have to be my favorite arc. Because you even have 99 in there, and when he died, I was a kid, and I started crying, because that was, really, really emotional when I was younger. It was a younger scene. It was a sad scene. He was such a good soldier, and he died. But, RIP my boy. Press F in the chat for my boy 99. This next question comes from Gogeta Blue. He asks, what if the sequel trilogy was made in the 80s? Now, this is a very interesting question, and I do think I am qualified to answer because I have studied the shit out of George Lucas for the past year. Been doing a lot of research, a lot of books that I've been reading, a lot of people I've been meeting and talking to that knew about him and know him and been telling me stories as well. A lot of fun stuff. The sequel trilogy in the 80s, the reason that wasn't a possibility back then was because Lucas didn't really want to return to the Star Wars trilogy so soon. There's other things he wanted to do. He wanted to team up with Steven Spielberg, do some Indiana Jones stuff, the Indiana Jones TV shows and everything. He didn't want to direct any movies. So if he did make them in the 80s, someone else would direct them. But he would likely work on the story and produce, and that is where we would come with a problem of Lucas having to write the script. Who would he work alongside with? Probably Kasdan again. So he probably would have had some really good story going on there with episodes 7, 8, and 9. Original trilogy cast would have returned, of course. Likely would have came out. I would think he'd give it another 3-year break. Return of the Jedi came out in 83. So you go in 86, maybe? Yeah, 86 wouldn't be the worst time to release that. 7th Star Wars movie, or even do it in 87 and then have the next one release in the 90s, and you have the 90s kind of be the decade for these Star Wars sequels. The problem with making it in the 80s is that Lucas has kids in the 80s. That's when he retired from movies in general to raise his daughters, to raise his family, to have his family. And he really came back in the 90s kind of due to circumstantial stuff, a lot of personal stuff that happened for Lucas. So I don't think the 80s would have been the best decade to make the sequel trilogy. There was a lot of stuff going on in that time that I think would have limited the story. And remember, George didn't want to make the prequels until the technology had gotten as far as he wanted it to. So the sequels would have been very limited in their technology, but they would have mainly been story driven. And they probably would have been about the Force and Luke Skywalker more than anything. It would have been about the Luke kind of passing it down, maybe having another Jedi Order or something. I'm not sure. George has always changed his narrative on what he wanted the sequel trilogy to be and what it was going to be about and how it was going to be about. It's really weird. I've learned this past few months that George was really indecisive on selling the rights to Star Wars. Even in 2012, he was bringing in Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford to get ready for a sequel trilogy by him though. He wasn't even thinking about selling it. Then it was like the next month he was like, oh, maybe I should sell it. And the month afterwards he's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. And it was a struggle for him. So it was a really wonder what he could have done with the sequel trilogy if he would have made it. And in the 80s, I don't think he would have gotten something that great, but you never know. He could have surprised me. Maybe that's an alternate timeline we got to visit. Eric asked, what are your thoughts about Revenge of the Sith story video game, 2005? I thought it was good in terms of lightsaber combat and memes. Also, I think your channel is great. I don't know what the fuck your problem is. I appreciate that, buddy. I didn't play it a lot. I know I played it a little bit when I was a kid. I remember renting it from Blockbuster for like a month. I didn't get to play it all the way through, I don't think. It was fun. The memes are great. That's one of the only reasons I remember it. I remember mainly playing that game, Revenge of the Sith, on the DS and the Game Boy, though. Was it on the Game Boy? Nah, it wasn't on the Game Boy. I don't know. There's no way it was on the Game Boy. Yeah, I don't think it was on the Game Boy, but it was definitely on that DS. I remember playing it on the DS, like the first DS that they had. I can't remember what it was called, but I know you got to play against Grievous and everything. It was a good game, but I can't remember if it was on the Game Boy or not. I really don't think it was, but I know I played it on one of my handheld devices when I was younger, but I didn't play it on the PS2 as much as I wanted to. But it was a good game, and the alternate ending was something that a lot of fans always liked. It was always something that I really thought was cool when I was a kid, and I always watched the trailer for it too that they had. I remember when the trailer for that game came out, and I was really hyped. Matthew asked, have you ever read any of the Disney Star Wars EU outside of the new movies, like the novels and the comics? I have. I have some reviews up on the channel about both Thrawn books. I like the first Thrawn book a lot. I think that's probably the best Star Wars book to date. I actually bought that at Celebration in 2017. I didn't get it signed by Timothy Zahn or anything, but I do have like a special Celebration exclusive design on it or whatever, and it does look really cool. And it was a really good book. I'm really disappointed with the second one. The second one was really boring, honestly. I listened to it on Audible, so maybe that was my problem, but it had Mark Thompson as the narrator, and he's probably the best Star Wars narrator that I can think of personally. And it was just weird. There were parts where Vader, whenever he was using the Force, he would say, double vision. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? What? I don't know. He'd always say it, and it just got annoying hearing it and thinking about that being in the book, like having to read that line over and over again. I've read the comic books as well. I haven't read all of them. The Vader comic books, I stopped up until the point where he fought that other Mon Calamari that had like a Grievous body. He was like a cyborg. I got to that part where Vader killed him, and then I stopped reading. I lost a little interest after that, sadly. And the comic books, other than that, I can't remember how many other ones that I've read. I think I read the Star Wars one with Han, Luke, and Leia, but then that kind of lost my interest as well. When it brought in Han's wife, I think, because his wife that him and Leia got stuck on a planet with, I stopped reading after that as well. Just, didn't catch my eye too much, sadly. So I haven't read all of them, but I'm aware of them. That Gamer Pro 97 asks, will Kylo be redeemed? He seems very conflicted, and Adam Driver says he knows how Kylo's gonna end. I think it would be annoying if he redeemed himself and died like Vader did. But I don't think you can really let him live either. You can't let him live after destroying as many people as he has and killing all the people that he has. I mean, he really is not a good person. So I do think he will die. But I don't know. Maybe what happens is Rey dies from Palpatine or something. Like she just ends up dying, and that makes Kylo turn to the light, and he saves the world. But he understands that he really is a messed up person, so he himself goes into exile as well. And so maybe he does make it out alive. I don't know. It's an interesting thought. That's probably the most interesting thing about the sequel trilogy is what is going to happen to Kylo Ren. And then also Palpatine. Storyteller22 asks, what were the most unexpected and interesting things you've seen at Celebration? It could be something like unique cosplay or something cool at a booth for examples. Booths, there wasn't a lot of amazing stuff. The best stuff that I saw at the booths were the artwork. And if you look at my first vlog, I need to put out the other ones as well. I think I only have like one or two I can put out, and I'll tell you why about that later, I guess. But with the vlogs, you see the first one. There's one where I visit this guy's art booth, and that was really cool. I thought that was probably my favorite and most unique booth that I saw. Costumes and cosplay. There's one where there's a bantha, and I thought it was just like a machine. I mean, my friend Ethan walked up to it, and it was blinking, and it kind of like moved its head, but it just stood still, and it was next to a Tusken Raider cosplayer, and he was really, I think he had like a European accent, but he was really nice and funny. And then out of nowhere, the bantha starts walking towards me, and I was like, "Oh fuck, it's real!" And my friend Ethan was like, "Oh, you didn't know it was real?" I was like, "No," and I don't think you can hear it in the footage I put up of it, because I definitely didn't want anyone hearing that out of nowhere. But yeah, that really shocked me that it was moving. I thought that was really unique. There was a lot of cool costumes there. I was surprised on the level of creativity that a lot of cosplayers had at Celebration, even for stuff that I didn't think people would do. There was a Rose Tico cosplayer. I didn't think I was gonna see the guy, the Luke Skywalker guy. He had you'll probably see it in my next vlog that I upload. There's a Luke Skywalker guy who has a fish and the green milk from The Last Jedi, and I thought that was really creative and really unique. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that I liked seeing at Celebration. It was a really good time being around the fandom. That's one thing I missed the most about Celebration, was that people talk about how broken the fandom is right now, and I do agree. We're at a very interesting time where a lot of people aren't seeing eye to eye in the fandom, and we never have, but it's really divided into many different sections right now. But at Celebration, everybody was just pretty positive and pretty cool about everything, and I really did like that. So I think it's something you could benefit if you go to, but it does depend on how well it is ran, because even in 2017, people weren't as kind as they were in Chicago. I didn't have a great experience at the 2017 Celebration. This next question comes from Wacko Jacko. He asks, if you were in charge of creating a story for Star Wars video game, what would it be about? I would try to make it as much of a create your own story video game, as open world and freedom as you can get. Honestly, you would be able to create your own character, go wherever you want, be a stormtrooper, be a clone, be a Jedi, Sith, whatever. You name it, you want it. Do whatever. Put as many planets as you can into it. It would be a revolutionary game. It wouldn't be a walk in the park, that's for sure. I'd push the boundaries if I made a Star Wars video game. I would argue I'd probably go over the top on it, but yeah, it wouldn't be it'd be a story where you can make it whatever you want, honestly. This next question is, what do you prefer, Clone Wars micro series or Star Wars The Clone Wars? I think we've talked about this a few times on the podcast. I think the micro series works really well as a movie. Like, if you take out episode 1 and put that in, and put episode 2, Attack of the Clones, in its place, and then put the micro series as episode 2, and then episode 3 is still Revenge of the Sith, you get a much better story. And then episode 1, The Phantom Menace, can just be like a spin-off, something, just something that just takes place before that can kind of tie in. But I think the micro series works really well in that sense. But overall, in terms of story and world building and enjoyment, it's going to have to be the Clone Wars. Clone Wars is far better, in my opinion. Paula asks, do you think there's going to be Reylo on episode 9? From what Daisy Ridley has said in her interviews, she said that she doesn't support it because of Kylo killing people and whatnot. I don't think they're gonna try to do that, and I think the reason being is because a lot of people are suspecting that they're related in some way. Kylo Ren in the movies is like 29 or 30, and Rey's 19. So I think that's not a message Disney and Lucasfilm would really want to send. I think that's something that only a small percentage of the community really wants. And I think this late into the trilogy, it would kind of ruin the relationship, honestly. I think they work really well as kind of friends, or they were trying to be friends in episode 8. It didn't seem romantic. It seemed like they were genuinely just, talking to each other and trying to help each other through their both both of their struggles. I mean, they were both pretty lonely in episode 8. It felt like for them, Rey's on this island with Luke. She doesn't really know him. He's crazy as fuck. And then you have Kylo, who is isolated. He doesn't have his father or his mom anymore. He killed his father. He doesn't feel the same. And he's on that ship with Snoke, who he doesn't like. You can see he hates him and probably wants him dead. And he obviously killed him, so he did want him dead. He's very conflicted. I think bringing in Reylo complicates the Star Wars story in the sequels beyond the point that you need to complicate it. I think you just need to keep it simple. And romance is nice. I do like romance in my movies. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I know people get shit for saying, or guys get shit for thinking a fucking puppy's cute or whatever, but I like having romance. And that's one of the reasons I didn't like the prequels, is I didn't think the romance was great. One of the reasons I like the original trilogy, one of the reasons I think the original trilogy works so well is because the romance between Han and Leia feels authentic. It feels real. It feels like people I could actually see having a relationship. And of course, knowing it wouldn't work in the end, like it didn't, but still, Reylo isn't something you need to make the Star Wars story and the sequels better. So I don't think they're going to put it in. And I don't think J.J. Abrams himself is all that comfortable trying to put that in. I don't know J.J. much as a romantic guy when it comes to his love stories. So I don't think it's a great idea. I don't think there's going to be a lot of Reylo going on in Episode 9, just from the hints that we get. Because they always kind of tease that stuff on the Star Wars panels. At Episode 9, they were teasing about, all these love triangles and whatnot. Yeah, I think Reylo, hopefully, is out the window. I don't hate it, I'm just not a fan of it. I don't understand it, personally. Bricktails asks, do you think more flashbacks in The Rise of Skywalker could make Luke's character change in Episode 8 feel more earned? Yeah, I think one of the big problems I have with Luke, upon thinking about The Last Jedi again, is how indecisive he is. At one moment he's he's really for the Jedi, and another moment he's like, no, I hate the Jedi, and then he's like, alright, I'll train you, Rey. I'm not going to train you. And then he's like, I'll give you a few lessons, why not? And then, no more lessons. I've seen this power once before. You're done. Get out of here, or something. And there's that one part where he goes to R2-D2, and he's like, I don't know what to do, R2. I'm not going to train her. And he's like, oh, that's a cheap move. Yeah, I'll come back. I'll do it again. And then he sees her with Kylo, and he's like, no, I'm not going to teach her anymore, and I'm done with this shit. It's not going to go the way you think. And she flies away, and he goes to destroy the tree of Ra or whatever with all the books and shit. And then he's like, I'm gonna destroy it. And then he goes, nah, I'm not gonna destroy it. And then Yoda destroys it. And he's like, hey, you destroyed it, what the fuck? And it's like, dude, you said you were just about whatever. So I don't know how they're gonna change his character in Episode 9 with flashbacks alone. I mean, they definitely could, but how much do you want to change Episode 8? How much do you want to go back and fix what that was, or change the story of Episode 8 and to make it fit for Episode 9? That's a lot of time you're going to spend on stuff that we should have seen before. It's so complicated what Episode 9 has to do. It's one of those things where it's like, God, it feels like it's almost destined to fall on its It feels like it's almost destined to fall on its face as a story, because there's so much we're not expecting from it. But in terms of story, it's like, what can you do? And from what you've shown us, it's like, well, God, how are you going to execute that properly? And how are you going to rebound after what we just saw? There's so much. And then tie in every trilogy, but then also stand on your own as a film. A lot of demand for that film. He also asked, Bricktails asked, thoughts on Robot Chicken Star Wars. I think it's great. I bought the entire thing on my Xbox a long time ago. I've been watching it from time to time. It's funny as hell. I mean, really. If I have a Star Wars friend or two over, and it's late at night, 1 a.m, and we're out doing stupid shit, maybe a little intoxicated or something, having a good party time. It's like, hey, you wanna talk Star Wars and put in some Robot Chicken? Let's chill, man. I mean, I'd be all up for it. Having like a Star Wars party, everybody just watch Robot Chicken. That show's funny as hell. I can't not enjoy it. So this next question is a lengthy one and an interesting one. I can't say the guy's name. I just don't know how. I'm sorry. He asked, what's your opinion on conservative creators getting deplatformed off of YouTube? This isn't about Star Wars, but it could have an impact on your channel because you talk about controversial topics. Thanks. I don't know what the fuck your problem is. I appreciate that, buddy. I think if YouTube could lay out their guidelines and stick to them, it'd be a little better. I heard a little bit about that Steven Crowder stuff. That was a little. There's a lot of messy stuff with YouTube. If they could just make it seem like they weren't being biased towards maybe more liberal channels or more liberal shows, a lot of the Tonight shows that are more left leaning are always on the trending tab and everything. And as you said, they do kind of get they do deplatform a lot of conservative speakers. And I think if you're trying to show the community of YouTube that it's you, that's the first letter or the first word in the. I think if you're trying to tell the community you're allowed to have a voice and everything, you can't really say that while you're restricting the people who are saying, hey, we want a voice, we want freedom of speech, we want this and that. If you restrict that speech, it does seem like you have a narrative behind it. It does seem like you have a certain agenda, and I don't like that. I think they should just leave everybody as they should and have certain guidelines, but if you're going to have those guidelines, stick to them, and they shouldn't go towards one political ideology over the other. It's a messy topic, and being a Star Wars channel, it's a messy topic for me, so we're just going to go to the next one. That one Smokey asked, will you play Jedi Fallen Order? Pretty basic question. I'm sure you would get a lot, but I'm curious because I wasn't too excited before. With what I've seen/heard, it's shaping up to be great. I just hope it has over a 20-hour story. I am concerned about how long that game is going to be. I think they said the gameplay we saw was 3 hours into it, but I also heard from someone else, like in the interviews, that it was a third of the way through the game. And if that's true, that's only 9 hours, and that's not a lot. So they definitely said it's not a 5-hour game, which is good, but I hope it's over 20 hours as well. I'm with you there. I will be playing Jedi Fallen Order, and if you are subscribed to the channel, I do plan on giving away 2 copies of Jedi Fallen Order, one for the Xbox and one for the PS4. So look forward to that later this year and more details on how to get that. Not sure how I'm gonna set up the giveaway, but I'm definitely doing it, no matter what. Ben Reed asked, Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is. I appreciate that. I don't know why I said you asked that when you just told me, but appreciate that, buddy. That's a good comment. Ryan Shepard says, do you expect any old characters showing up in The Mandalorian? Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's right after Return of the Jedi, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to see a bunch of familiar characters return. A lot of people thought IG-88 was coming back. Sadly, that's IG-37, but there's going to be a lot of different characters that show up as well. So I'm excited about that. Bill Burr's in it. If y'all know who Bill Burr is, he's a comedian I like. He's pretty funny. He's in it. I saw him in the trailer or the footage that we saw at the celebration. That was really cool. This next question comes from Tabin. He asks, if it's my first time going to Celebration, how do I prepare and should I get the Master Pass? The Master Pass, I mean, that's $900, dude. Honestly, that's going to be the hardest thing to get. It's the thing that sells out the fastest. I really recommend getting the normal 4-day pass, and if it's your first time just doing that, just getting a feel for it, enjoying it. To prepare for it, honestly, save up money, of course. Plan ahead, for sure. Plan ahead. There are going to be certain panels and things you can do, certain booths you can see, but I find that I can get through the entire booth and the entire floor within an hour or two. There's not a lot of stuff that catches my eye. I'm like, oh, I'm going to look at that for a good hour or whatnot. There's a lot of lines. Expect a lot of waiting and a lot of lines. But the panels can be really fun. In 2017, I went to a few panels that I was able to get into. Those were fun. 2019, they were doing it with panel lotteries. So be careful with that. That's going to be something you're going to have to plan around and schedule around if you do buy the ticket. You'll have to see that later. There's a lot to do at Star Wars Celebration, and there's a lot of cool people to meet. I just don't think you should waste your time with all the merchandising and whatnot. For me, I'm going to be in Anaheim, California. I'm going to go around and travel in 2020. I'm going to go around and do different stuff, meet different people. I met a lot of different celebrities. I think someone asked about that question as well, so we'll talk about that later. But there's a lot of cool things you can do, like getting an autograph that you do have to pay, a lot of money for, but autographs and photo ops are really cool moments to meet celebrities and actually have conversations with them. I mean, from what I've learned and from the friends that I've traveled with, if you really want to meet a celebrity and talk to them, mainly someone like Ray Park, who I know will talk your ear off and let you talk his ear off. He wants to talk to all the fans. He's a big fan pleaser. I know people who work with Ray who tell me, and I know at Celebration in Chicago, he was the last celebrity to leave. I mean, he closed down the place. I mean, it was crazy. People like that will talk to you for a while. People like that like engaging with the fans. So if you go and get an autograph from him, you're more likely to spend more time talking to him because he's going to sit there and sign it and everything. And Ray likes to talk to you, and there's other people that'll talk to you as well. So there's a lot of fun experience to have at Celebration, but there's a lot of bullshit that goes on as well. If you have friends to go with and you try to focus on the Star Wars aspect of it, then you're gonna have a great time. But if you go in with if you go in looking for like a lot of merchandise and waiting in lines and stuff, you'll find that it can be pretty boring or it can be uneventful. But that's how I take it. I'm more of a, hey, let's go here and enjoy the experience instead of let's go and buy all the merchandise I can and look at this cool toy and everything. I mean, I had a great time in Chicago, and one of the days I didn't even spend in Celebration. I didn't spend at the convention center. So like me and my friends, we went to downtown Chicago and we chilled for a day. It was probably one of my favorite days there. And even in 2017, the day they had the Last Jedi trailer, that panel, I skipped. I dipped out after the first day. I was like, I'm not feeling it. I'll go to that Universal Park in Orlando. That's where I went. I had a great time. That was probably my favorite day in Orlando. Even at Celebration in 2017, that was my favorite day. So you have those options to just enjoy the time. For me, it's not a vacation. It's kind of work because I have footage to cover and news and stuff that I got to get. And I also am making a lot of business connections there. But it's also something where I'm going there to have a good time and try to make it a vacation and try to enjoy. And that's the main thing to prepare for it. You just go in and try to have a good time with it because it's fun, but it'll go by like that. Jeez, I was there for 5 days, and that's how long the convention was, and that went by in a breeze. And this next one's only going to be 4 days. And I don't even know what it's going to be about. Is it going to be about the next Star Wars episode? If it's in 2020, late August, and the next movie doesn't come out until 2022, what the hell is Celebration going to be about? Why not just do it in 2021? And what's the one going to be in 2021 about? So you never know. I don't know. But this next question comes from David. He asks, how do you feel about Star Wars games? Battlefront 2 is on the come up. Lego Star Wars Complete Saga looks promising, as does Fallen Order. But why won't Disney or Lucasfilm let other developers create games with their blessings and oversight? Lucasfilm doesn't have too much say in it. It's a licensing thing that only Disney can really take charge of. And I think Lucasfilm has some say in terms of who gets it or the story. Mainly the story. They have say in the story, but they don't have say in who works on the games, I believe. And so with that, that's a Disney thing. And Disney has problems working on games. They look at what Disney CEO Bob Iger said recently, where he said that, we're not good at making video games, so why not let EA do it? And therefore, they're not going to expand anywhere else. The only other people they'll go to is Warner Brothers, and that's only for the Lego Star Wars games. So, yeah. Mr. Insane asks, Lucasfilm really needs to come up with some new material. They're just ridding of Indiana Jones and Star Wars. When I'm CEO, I'll fix that. Well, damn, that's not a question, but good for you, Mr. Insane. Good luck. This next question comes from Crocodile Key Productions. He says, do you think the First Order could win the war in the command of Hux and his officers, no Snoke or Kylo? I mean, not really. Hux doesn't seem to be that smart. He let the Dreadnought get destroyed and didn't simply say, hey, why don't you aim your cannons not at the base, which stands still? Why don't you actually aim it at the fleet, which is right there? And I don't know why Hux's ship didn't engage with that fleet either. Why'd the Dreadnought do it? I don't know. No, how about that? He's shit, is what he is. He's a joke. This next question comes from Byron. He asks, when you met Alex from Star Wars Explained at Celebration, what did y'all talk about? Oh, yeah. That was funny. I remember Jeremy, Geeks and Gamers Jeremy, we were talking. He was like, yeah, I'm trying to meet Alex. And I was like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't mind meeting him, too. And then, literally the next day, we both met him or something like that. Or I was at a bar. Or I don't remember what night it was. But we were at the bar, the Marriott bar, and I saw him. And one of my friends would point him out here, like, hey, dude, I think that's Star Wars Explained. I was like, fuck. Well, he doesn't know who I am, so that's okay. So I went up to him. And I was like, hey, Alex, and he looked at me and he said hey or something and shook his hand. I was like, I remember watching your videos back when you were Star Wars Minute. We talked about, panels mainly. I asked him, Molly was there too, and I was like, Molly, it's nice to meet you as well. It wasn't, they didn't know who I was, that's for sure. And I didn't tell them who I was for a very specific reason. And I just didn't want them to know who I was because I knew the minute I did, they were going to be like, fuck you. I kind of wanted to give them the sense of, hey, I'm not that much of a dick as you think I am. But we talked about panels. I asked what panels they got into, and then that was really it. And then they were telling me about they were doing that Schmodown thing with a Collider, or was it Collider? I'm not sure. They were doing some Schmodown thing. I don't know too much about it, but they said Molly was on it. I think she said like she lost or something, but like they were still in good spirits about it. And they were really nice. I mean, I had a good conversation with them, but didn't talk to them too long. Just kind of high and by, and wanted to introduce myself. I don't know if I even told them my real name. I think I did. I'm pretty confident I did. I feel that would be rude if I didn't, and I'm normally not like that. So yeah, they probably know who I am. I really just wanted to meet him and be able to be like, I mean, we shook hands and I was as nice as I could be. I wasn't trying to be rude, and I definitely don't want to have any bad beef with anybody. I just had disagreements with him on Star Wars. That really was it. I'm not gonna let it affect how I think of him as a person. This next question comes from Josh. He asks, "Have any characters you'd like to see get a comic series?" Not really, honestly. I think they all either will get a comic series, or any character I see that I like, I'm just like, I've seen enough of them. I don't want to oversaturate any stories, honestly. Probably, are there any characters that I'd want? Maybe Snoke. Yeah, Snoke could get a comic book series and I'd be happy. He asked, "Did you see Ethan Van Shriver at Star Wars Celebration?" Did I say his name right? I don't know if I did. I'm sorry if I didn't. No, I don't know. I know he's good, cool with Jeremy and World Class Bullshitters, and I know he was at Celebration, and I've seen his videos from time to time. He makes good stuff, and I've watched his stuff, but I'm not like a subscriber. I don't watch it too often because I mean, when I deal with Star Wars all day, I don't really want to listen to other people talk about it as well, unless what they have to say is interesting. And he does have some interesting stuff to say from time to time, but I don't know what he looks like, so. And no one introduced me to him, and if they did, I forgot. But I really don't think we met, or I would have remembered and probably established contact and be like, "Hey, man, a nice meet you," or something like that, or taking a picture. I don't know. So no, I didn't meet him. I would have liked to meet him. I feel bad that I didn't, but I don't think he knows me, and I don't think I really know him that well. So it was kind of like a, "Hey, nice to meet you." I don't think he knows me, and I don't think I know him that well. So I'm not sure it would have been a meeting that we both would have been like, I know that guy. It would just been like, we both would have walked away and been like, who the fuck is that guy? This next question comes from Anthony116. He asks, "Would you still be interested in the D&D trilogy if it was a KOTOR?" Yes, if it was not Knights of the Old Republic, I would still be interested in it. I'm interested in it no matter what, just to see what they do. But I'm not as interested in the story. If it's not Knights of the Republic, I'll be disappointed, but I'm still going to be intrigued. Like, I'm still going to watch it no matter what. This next question comes from Star Wars History Archives. He asks, "You obviously went to Star Wars Celebration in 2019 and had a blast. How was it?" It was good. I mean, I had a really good time. I met a lot of friends. I had a rough time after like the fourth day because I lost my wallet, and that sucks because I had to take a flight back home, and flying without a license. My ID was in there, my debit card was in there, my credit card was in there. But I had a great time, honestly. I mean, every night I stayed out till probably 2 a.m. With some friends and out meeting certain people and making cool connections and whatnot. It was a really fun time. Anaheim's probably going to be a little better because it's in California and it's going to be closer to Disneyland, and they're going to do some special stuff with that. And I'm having a lot more friends that I know go to Anaheim. I'm not sure how well it's going to be ran, but hopefully it's going to be ran just as good, if not better, than the Chicago one. I was able to go to almost every panel that I wanted to as well. I'm not going to tell you how, but I was able to go to all of them. Episode 9, The Mandalorian. I didn't see the Galaxy's Edge one. I didn't want to see that one. But then there was also the Phantom Menace 20th anniversary one. And I was happy to get into that one, but man, that one was boring as hell. Like, honestly, that was probably the most boring one. And the only interesting thing was Ahmed Best showing up and George Lucas sending in his video. But I didn't realize until I got there that George had lived in Chicago. I assumed that he still lived in San Francisco because he always lived in San Francisco. He likes living over there. But yeah, he moved out to Chicago with his new wife, and I didn't even know that. And one of my Lyft drivers, He was an Asian guy, really cool. And he was not a big Star Wars fan, but he was a Star Wars fan as well. He was talking about it. He was funny because he cussed a lot. And he's like, yeah, man, I see George Lucas getting his fucking coffee all the time. And he's just always chilling and shit. And, you know, he's always got his bodyguards around him and everything. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool, man. That was pretty cool. So yeah, it was a blast because I was able to go to Chicago, go around. I got to get pretty baked with a certain Star Wars celebrity. I can't tell you who. Now, actually, that's a pretty interesting story. So, if you know what a cart is, a THC cart, and I'm not going to go into detail too much for you people who are uninitiated, but if you know what that is, I had one on me, and I was like, you know what? I'm trying to get into this Clone Wars panel, and I want to get into this Clone Wars panel really bad. And, no, I got into the Mandalorian panel with it. That's what it was. So I had the card on me, and I was going through the metal detector thing, and I was like, crap, how am I going to get this in? And so the guy in front of me, he had his bag, and I felt awful for doing it, but I was able to, his bag was already through somehow, I can't remember exactly how I did it, but I was able to sneak my cart into his bag in an open flap. And then they scanned me, I got in, and then I was like, hey, and I was able to sneak it out real quick too without him or anyone noticing. I was like, oh shit, this was easy. I'm glad I got this in. But I told him, because I handed him his bag, I was like, this yours? He's like, yeah. I was like, hey man, I slipped this in and I got it out, but don't worry, I didn't steal nothing. Because I felt bad. I was like, bro, this is sketchy as shit from his point of view. This is sketchy as shit from my point of view, and I'm the fucker doing it. But I was like, I really want to get this in because if I get caught with it, it's not good at all, and I'm in Chicago. And yeah, so that wasn't ideal. And I had lost my wallet at the time too. Like that was when I had lost my wallet, so it wasn't a good moment to have that on me and get caught with it. But I was like, I can't not have it and get into this and like try to leave it outside or something. So yeah, that was interesting. But I was able to watch the Mandalorian trailer while hitting that thing, and that was good. That was fucking good. I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty fun. And that also did benefit my experience and enhance my experience at Celebration. There was one guy, the guy I put in my my documentary. The guy I put in my documentary at the end where he talks about, I think George Lucas is a nerd who wanted to make Star Wars movies. He was on like the live show stage where the Star Wars YouTube show was happening, and they did some interviews up there and everything. And in my vlog, I showed it had like Windows 7. There was a guy up there that I interviewed. He was the one at the end of the documentary. He was up there like taking a picture and taking a selfie of him just chilling. And I don't know if I have the video of it. I might. If I do, I'll put it up on like my vlog or something. But he fucking like got caught basically. He was up there and he was taking like selfies with the like Star Wars Death Star door that they have, and it was really cool. He was up there taking selfies. He wasn't even supposed to be up there. I don't even know how the fuck he got up there. And the security guard saw him and was like, hey, get down. And he got mad at me because he thought I ratted him out. And I was like, no, bro, that wasn't, like, what the fuck? Like, no, I'm sorry, fam. I was like, hey, let me give you, I was like, you want to do an interview for Star Wars and the documentary The Phantom Menace? And he was like, yeah. And so that's how we got that interview. That was the only interview we really got. I was able to interview some other guy. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but this was a really cool guy that was a fan of the channel. But we didn't get too far into it because we were interrupted by the guy on stage. And then I interviewed the guy on stage right after because he was about to leave. And I was like, hey, me and the other guy can meet up later this week. But then I lost everything. I lost my wallet and shit. So, yeah, it didn't go out too well. But that's how we got the interview for the Phantom Menace documentary. The dude was just up on stage taking a selfie. Wasn't even supposed to be up there. I don't even know who the guy's name is. I really don't. Like, I really wish I had his number, but the fucker never texted me back. And he even promised me, he's like, hey man, I got some parties this Saturday at a hotel if you want to come. I was like, that sounds a little sketchy, but fuck it, I'm down. Never pulled through. It's whatever. It was still a good interview and still a good time. But that was pretty funny to have the guy get caught on stage and come down for an interview. I should have interviewed him about the incident on stage, but whatever. Distracted by OLED asks, what's your opinion on Cad Bane in Disney's Galaxy's Edge? Cad Bane's really cool. He's a character that we should explore upon even more than we already have in the Clone Wars. He's not underrated. He's just like the right amount of badass with enough story behind him. I like him. I think we need more characters. Disney's Galaxy's Edge, I don't have an opinion on it yet. I haven't been. It seems cool. It seems a little disappointing. You only get 4 hours, and I've heard it's actually really small, and there's only one ride. So yeah, I'm not really sure how it's for kids, if it's not for kids. You got alcohol and rides. It's only 4 hours. I mean, come on. But anyways, the next question is from Battle Tested. He asks, have you watched the Mauler reviews of The Last Jedi? Yeah, those are really good. I haven't watched them in a while, but he's really talented with that. This next question comes from Instagram. It's CRAllen27. He asks, did you meet Rogue Squadron podcast? Oh, I did not, man. I was planning on it. What happened was there was 2 parties I was supposed to go to on Friday night, and one of them was the Rogue Squadron podcast party that they were having at the brewery. But there was another one that I was supposed to go to that was like autograph signing party or something. I can't remember exactly. Not an autograph signing party, but like an autograph group party or whatever. But they were both 21 and over places, and I was 19 at the time. And I was like, well, shit, I have a beard and I could probably get in without any ID, but I'm pretty confident they would have ID'd me anyways. And then my friend told me, he talked to his friends at the autograph party, and they were like, yeah, your friend can't come because he's not, 21. So I was like, damn. And so I had assumed that I couldn't go to the Rogue Squadron party, so I didn't show up. I felt bad. I was really busy that night, though. I actually had made a... Where did I go? Oh, that's where I made some really fun memories doing other stuff. Doing different shit at the bar. So yeah, it was kind of one of those things where it was like, I missed out, but I didn't miss out in a way. But I do miss, I really wish that I met the Rogue Squadron guys, because we had messaged each other, and they were really cool, really nice. And they definitely said I could have come to the brewery. I would have had to wear a wristband that said I couldn't drink, but yeah, it's whatever. It was also going to be like a live thing, and it was going to show my face on the podcast. And I wasn't really comfortable with that at the time. I was kind of like, no, I don't know. I don't want to do that yet. So I don't know. I don't know how all that would have worked out, but I do want to meet them. I am going to meet them hopefully next time in 2020 if they show up. And if they have another podcast going on for it, I would love to show up and be there, because I'll be 21 by the next celebration, so I don't have to worry about getting in or not, which will be nice. This next question comes from Finn. He asks, can you take down the vid, take out the 30-second video, and re-upload the documentary? What I did to fix that was actually I had to go through YouTube Editor and just edit out that entire section of the Weird Al Yankovic song. And I was really upset that I had to do that, but it's whatever. I don't think I'm going to be able to get all the money that video made or could have made, which sucks a lot, but any money that video now makes in the future, I'll be able to make, which is nice. But yeah, I was really disappointed by that copyright claim and the appeal and all that stuff going through. But yeah, I fixed it, thankfully. I appreciate everybody who gave me advice and who gave me advice and support on that. Actually, there's a YouTube channel who walked me through it and helped me. The First Order, he's smaller. He's got like 15,000 subs right now, but he was on YouTube when I started, and he kind of went away for a while, but he helped me fix it, and so I was really happy with that. So go check him out, and big shout out to him for helping out the channel. This next question comes from Elemental Jedi. He asks, do you think Episode 9 will do as great as Avengers Endgame at the box office? Not likely at all. Episode 7 was the big one. Star Wars movies have a trend of the first one is always the biggest one, because it's the return of Star Wars. So if Star Wars takes another hiatus, then sure, but it's not going to be as big as it could be. And no one expected Avengers Endgame to be that big. Even Disney and Marvel weren't expecting it to be the second highest grossing film of all time. And the reason Avengers is doing so good is because overseas, its revenue is crazy. It's doing great in China and all the other countries. But in America, The Force Awakens did better than Avengers Endgame domestically. But it's not as a big deal in other countries. Star Wars isn't a big deal. And Star Wars didn't have the 10-year build-up movie thing that Marvel had with Avengers. So it's not going to do as well, sadly, but it'll still do pretty well in my opinion. I think it's going to do 1.5 billion, but I've been wrong before, so let's see. This next question comes from Arthur. He asks, how many celebrities did you meet at Celebration? Jeez, man, I met a lot. Let me go through my phone real quick and see if I can remember everybody specifically. I met Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. I'm not really sure if he's a celebrity, but he's known in the fandom. John Morton, the actor who played Dak in Empire Strikes Back, and also Boba Fett, one in a scene or two as well. David Collins, he played Proxy in the Starkiller games, The Force Unleashed. Met him. I met Daniel Logan. He played young Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones. He was really cool. Star Wars Explained, I met him. I met Star Wars Theory as well. Talked to him for a little bit. Who else did I meet? Jet Lucas, George Lucas's son. I met him and his girlfriend. They were really cool. Jet Lucas is he's a very interesting person to talk to. He's kind of like monotone in a way. It's interesting. Tall guy too. I met another YouTuber, Josh Pence. He's really cool, and a guy named Travis English as well. He was really cool. He's on Twitter, and I know he's on YouTube as well. I forget what he does. I can't remember if it's a podcast or something, but he was like on a panel as well, and so he's pretty known in the community. I can't remember exactly what he does, but I met him, and I had dinner with him and his wife twice. We went to where all we go? Well, we went to this fancy pizza place, and then we had dinner one night at the Marriott. Who else did I meet? I met a lot of people. Ken from Collider. I met him as well. He was really cool, really nice to talk to. Andy from the Star Wars show. I met her. I talked to her for a few minutes, and we actually had like a conversation about like the Mandalorian and George Lucas and everything. It was a actually weird, genuine conversation. My friend Mike, who runs the All Star Wars YouTube channel and Instagram page, noticed her. She was just standing by this Mandalorian bike, and we went up to her. He went up to her and was like, "Hey, can I get a picture?" And then after that, he said something to her, and then she said something to him, and he said something to me, and then we started talking with her, and then he was talking to the other guy, I think, who runs the Star Wars show. And so me and her were talking for a minute as well. And she was really cool. I should have asked for a picture. I don't know why I didn't. I don't know. I was like, I'd rather just talk to her at least. And so she was really nice, really sweet. Who else? I think that's it. I think that's all the celebrities I can think of or remember. Jeff, is that his name? Jeff from World Class Bullshitters. I met him as well. He was really nice. He actually gave me some pointers and advice about running the YouTube channel and whatnot, and what to do and what to avoid in certain cases and everything. So I really like that. Really nice guy. So I had a good time. And that Star Wars girl, she's on Twitter as well, and I think she has a YouTube channel that's more popular than mine. She's like at 100K now or something. So good for her. I met her as well. I think she was the one who drew or something like that, who had like real talent for art. So that was nice. But I met her through Jeremy. That's why. This next question comes from Tops Wine Glass. He said, "How much did the whole trip cost, Star Wars Celebration?" Let's see. It costs a lot. I'm gonna say that much. Now, let's see. I bought my tickets were about $1,000 because I fucked up on one of them, and it's because StubHub fucked me over. Never buy through StubHub. Never buy through third party. Just buy through the actual website. If you do, buy through Facebook or something. But yeah, I had to buy 2 things of tickets. Spent about $1,000 on that. The trip, like for the hotel and the flight and everything, that was probably another $1,000. So that's $2,000 right there. Plus the camera and all the equipment I needed for that. It's about another that's not another $3,000, but that's $3,000 in total. Plus the expenses and everything, probably another $500. So probably about $3,500. That's how much the trip cost me. But that's because I did different stuff. I bought a camera to go there to record footage for YouTube, so I kind of make my money back in that sense. I can also, I'm not the dumbest guy in the world. I can write some of the stuff off as a tax write-off, so I can pull that off as well. So it's going to be, in the long run, it might not have cost me that much. It might actually make me money the whole trip. But yeah, it cost me $3,500. Estimated. At least that. Not at max. At least. Don't forget I went to go eat. I also lost my wallet. And fun fact, the month after I lost my wallet, someone stole my debit card and stole all my money and committed fraud. So yeah, I got a lot of luck in my life, don't I? This next question comes from the Techno Union. He asked, "Why hasn't Anakin's ghost confronted Kylo Ren?" Yeah, that's a good question. That is a good question that I would ask if he showed up in any of the movies. Like if he shows up in Episode 9, Anakin's ghost, and Rey's there, I'd be like, "Hey, what the fuck? Like, where were you? Hey, come on, man." Or even if I was Kylo, I'd be like, "Hey, dude, like you could have told me after all this time. Do you have any idea how many people I have killed in the name of being powerful and off of what your Force Ghost or whatever showed me?" And that's another question. When he's like, "Show me again the power of the dark side." Who showed him that? Or we're told that's like basically Snoke deceiving him or something, but what did he show him? I don't know. I'm a lot of questions. Good luck, JJ, answering them all. This next question comes from James. He asks, will EA pull a sneaky and make Jedi Fallen Order an unfinished cash grab like Anthem? Well, we saw the alpha footage, and I'm not sure how video game production works that well. I'm not sure if it's a good sign that we have alpha footage this like late in the game or not, but I don't know. Someone tell me if I'm wrong or right. But I don't think EA is going to screw it up too much because it's Respawn. For some reason with Respawn, EA, it seems like their whole company revolves and is going to rely on Respawn for the next few years. Apex Legends did really well because EA didn't touch it. EA let Respawn make the game and do their thing. And with this game, Jedi Fallen Order, Respawn was already making a third-person action-adventure game that we have now, basically. They were making it, showed it to EA, EA liked it, and then they were like, hey, you want to make a Star Wars game instead with this stuff you got going on right here, basically? And Respawn was like, sure, why not? And they already had, like, game mechanics. Not exactly worked out, I guess, but kind of a rough draft, I don't know. And so I think they had a good start with this game. And I think since it's Respawn and EA knows so much relies on them and they don't have a good track record right now, that's why Respawn's pushing so hard on, hey, this is not an EA game. There's no microtransactions, none of that bullshit, no multiplayer, none of that. It's exactly what a lot of people want. No loot boxes, everything that fans have been basically asking for. Respawn saying, hey, we have that. And I think EA's lack of involvement by, lack of marketing with it so far. I mean, well, yeah, the marketing that we have had so far. But I think EA is stepping back and kind of letting Respawn do their own thing. I don't think they're going to screw up like they did with Anthem, because I think Anthem was... I know Anthem was plagued with production problems behind the scenes and everything. Video game development was just not great for that at all at BioWare. So hopefully it's the game we all want it to be. I really do hope that. And last thing I want to talk about is, do you guys think I should do a Patreon? Like, what would you want me to do for Patreon? I, of course, would upload some exclusive stuff on there that you can't get on YouTube. And I would, of course, try to upload... I'd probably try to upload everything there first before I would on YouTube, just to give you some of the exclusiveness. But what do I need to offer you on Patreon that would make you want to support me? Because I don't feel like just doing a Patreon just for the sake of it is worth anything. I feel like I need to offer something to kind of earn it in a way. And so I would, of course, do the little tier rewards, you have like the $1 one, the $5 ones, and all that stuff. In the future, I will be doing merch, and I do have some stuff from Star Wars Celebration I could, of course, send out. I'm not doing a Patreon anytime soon, but maybe later this year, maybe sometime later, I can work on one and get one going while we have this big eventful year for Star Wars. It may not be the best ideal thing, but tell me what you would want from a Patreon Star Wars only account. What would you want in order for you to support it, and would you be willing to support it? If you guys could just give me some ideas on what you think would be good for a Patreon account, what I could do for a Patreon account that you think would be good for the channel and good for the future of Star Wars only, and to see how things go. So tell me your thoughts below. I'm Star Wars only. Hope you guys enjoyed this long little chat we had. I enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys stuck around. If you made it to this part of the video, put in the comment section below, Palpatine laughs at the end. And I will see you all next time, and may the Force be with you, always.